Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Click to Buy, the show where we ask e-com experts for their best advice to help you turn clicks into customers. I'm your host, Becca from Instant Page Builder, and today I am so excited to introduce David Wachs, the founder and CEO of Handwritten. In a world where everything seems to be automated and impersonal, David's found a way to bring back the lost art of handwritten communication. But with a twist. His company, Handwritten, uses robots to scale handwritten notes in a way that still feels personal, thoughtful, and unique. But David's been an entrepreneur for a long time before Handwritten, having previously founded Sell It, a mobile marketing agency. Now, with Handwritten, he's helping major brands, nonprofits, and even individuals reconnect with their audiences in a more meaningful way, one handwritten note at a time. So today, we're going to explore how creating personalized, unique customer experiences can make all the difference in a world of digital noise. So if you're looking for ways to make your business stand out and build stronger customer relationships, you won't want to miss our conversation. Well, to kick things off, David, welcome to the show. You've had this incredible entrepreneurial career. So I just have to know, what inspired you to focus on handwritten communication when it seems like all of our communication these days is online?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show, Becca. My last company was the Sell It company you mentioned. For
Mm-hmm.
that, we powered text message campaigns for some pretty large brands like Abercrombie and Fitch, Toys R Us, Sam's Club, Office Max, doing over 1 million texts a day just for Abercrombie.
Wow.
And what I realized is while it was effective, everybody was starting to get inundated with electronic communication, whether it
Mm-hmm.
was a text message or an email. The average office worker at that time was receiving 134 emails a day. They're spending about 24% of their time just managing their inbox. And now you add Slack and Teams and Twitter and Facebook messaging, WhatsApp, and all the rest, and people are just overloaded with this digital noise. And none of it is fun, none of it is meaningful. It's just a chore to see how quickly you can clear it off your plate. But what I found when I received a handwritten note, not only did I open it and read it, but I often kept it and put it on display. And I'd walk around to my employees' offices at Sell It, and I'd see the same thing. They'd have handwritten notes standing up on their desks or on their bookshelf behind them. At home, I'd have them stuck to my refrigerator, etc. So I thought, gee, if there's a way to scale what seems like a very personal form of communication, it could be really valuable. So the day after I left Sell It, I started Handwritten, and that was about 10 years ago. At that time, we were very small. We used kind of these off-the-shelf handwriting machines, but now we've got 200 robots that we build ourselves, and we do 10 to 20,000 pieces a day. So it's not the same
Wow.
scale as Sell It. It's a different animal, but it's certainly an effective one.
That's amazing. 10 to 20,000 cards a day. I can't even picture how many cards are getting out there, but
Yeah.
it's very interesting how you found kind of this maybe forgotten form of communication that I know the joy of going to my mailbox and seeing something that's not just a letter from
Mhm.
tax agency or something from the government, but seeing something that feels personal. So kind of on that note of personalization, anyone who's listened to the podcast knows that personalization seems like a topic that is super relevant in all areas of e-com. So I would love to get your take on what forms of kind of communication and personalization you think brands can use to try to stand out from the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. The simplest one is the most obvious, and people overlook it because there's no quote unquote ROI to it, but they're
Mm-hmm.
taking a very myopic short term view of it, and that is sending a thank you note. These days, when somebody chooses any of your Shopify customers to use their store and buy their products, they've done a tremendous amount of research. and they've searched the web and there's a million competitors, or they could go to Alibaba and make it themselves, or Etsy or whatever. There's just a million ways to get to the same result. And that customer ended up choosing your Shopify client or the listener to this podcast and choosing them. And I think that really needs to be appreciated. And if you go to our website, handwritten.com, and it's handwritten with a Y, so HANDWRYTTEN, you can go to the resources tab, and there you can download our consumer outreach survey, which we need to update. It's 2 or 3 years old, but we surveyed 2,000 consumers and we asked them, do they feel appreciated by brands? And by and large, the answer was absolutely not. They feel no connection to the brand. If you feel appreciated by a brand, what will you do? Well, it's obvious. You will buy more, you will buy more frequently, you'll buy higher value, and you'll refer more, right? So there is certainly benefit, if you care about that part. I would say it's just the right thing to do to thank your clients for choosing you, forget about the future benefit. But there is value there to have your clients or your customers feel appreciated. When we asked these customers, and this was a blind survey, these weren't handwritten, people that knew about Handwritten. We asked them, what's the number one way to feel appreciated? It is obviously send them a handwritten note. So, take that with a grain of salt. We put together the report. However, I will say we outsourced it to a third-party statistics company. They were blind survey respondents. We just asked them some questions that we felt we'd know the answer to, and sure enough, it came out exactly what we thought. So there are ways to pull levers to have your customers feel more engaged with you as a brand that will reap outsized returns. People say, what is the ROI of a thank you note? That thank you note's going to cost me $3. Well, there's a couple responses to that. Number one, the cost to acquire a client is often way, way more than $3. You have to take all the clicks to all your Google ads and then figure out, how much did all those cost you, and then divide it by how many clients you actually got to, get your cost per client acquisition, which is often $20, $30, whatever. Is it valuable to you to retain that client, or do you just want to churn and start all over again? And I used to get kind of argumentative when people would say, what's the cost of that thank you note? And say, well, that's ridiculous. You need to take a look in the mirror and say, gee, what's the matter with myself asking for the cost of a thank you note? But now what I say is, not everything that's important can be measured, and not everything that can be measured is important. And I'm stealing that from Albert Einstein. So, I would just say, think through what it took that customer to come to you, and you should appreciate that they went through those hurdles to get to you. And we do have a Shopify plugin that makes the whole thing easy, which I'm happy to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, it's amazing that you have seen the results in the survey that you were definitely, I imagine, hoping for, because you started this company thinking this is a hole in the market, this is a problem people have, but then seeing that validation. I'm curious if you have kind of any examples of e-commerce brands that have used this strategy and have seen kind of a meaningful impact on their customer retention or customer loyalty.
100%. So from a quantitative basis, we have a snack box company. So they send your office boxes of snacks on a biweekly basis. And what they found initially was when they screwed up, and whether they delayed your box or they sent you a box of broken, crumbled up snacks or whatever, they'd send that customer another box apologizing and include a handwritten thank you note in that box. And what they found is from that win back, they actually had a higher lifetime value for those customers than if they never screwed up in the first place. So then, obviously, what do? They screw up with all clients, raise the LTV of all their customers to create a more loyal customer base. We have a dog food company that sends a handwritten note on the birthday of the dog, and they include a little doggy hat, a paper dog hat, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to put that dog hat on and post it to Instagram. And that has generated some additional viral value for the customer. We have a flat pack furniture company that sends furniture to your house. And during COVID, they had their customers calling and crying, thanking for the personal touch. Now, a lot of that's due to COVID. People felt
Mm.
extremely isolated during COVID, and so any outreach would drive that. But there's certainly the case there. We have a bespoke online suit company. So you send in your measurements and they make you suits. They send out coupon codes once a year using us, and those coupon codes are written in the handwritten note. They have a 3 to 5 times greater redemption rate than any other coupon they send through the year. Um, we have a piano tuner, and now this is offline,
Okay.
but we have a piano tuner that enters your house, tunes your piano, doesn't need to be back in your house for another year because that pianos just stay tuned for a year. But
Hmm.
when he'll send you a handwritten note after that piano tuning, appreciating the fact you let him in your house. A year later, when he returns to your house, that handwritten note is often standing up on the piano. So not only was it opened, not only was it read, for a year, it's standing up on that customer's most prized possession in the fanciest room of their house, as my parents would call it, the fancy room, in the most important room of the house. And that's real estate a marketer cannot buy. So while it's an offline example, I
Hmm.
think it certainly applies to online organizations. It's really about P2P marketing, person to person marketing. We're all humans. There was that guy, Brian Kramer, that wrote a book, H to H marketing, human to
Hmm.
human. So creating those human connections, it's no different online or off. We have a fragrance company that uses us when they ship fragrances from their online store. And my wife and I and young child at the time, this was a couple of years ago, we walked into a department store. I saw that fragrance in the store, and I turned to my wife. I said, "Oh, this is the fragrance we're assisting." At that point, the store clerk came over and asked, if she could help me. And I said, "No, we send your handwritten notes." And she said, "No, you don't. I sit down, and at the end of the day, I have to write my handwritten notes, and that's after merchandising
Yeah.
and closing out the cash register and everything." I said, "Well, then do you do it?" And she said, "Sometimes if I get around to it." But the online customers automatically got the handwritten note. So in some ways, those online customers had a more personal experience than the
Hmm.
offline customer because they were guaranteed that additional touch point, where the offline customer fell through the cracks.
That's very interesting, especially as like these days in the way people shop. I was even looking at some statistics on how they've polled people on how they're going to do their holiday shopping with this window approaching. Like,
Yeah,
so many people plan on shopping online or visiting a store and then also price comparing on their phone while they're at the
yeah,
store. So I think really trying to find ways to have that streamlined, personalized experience no matter which channel you're choosing to shop on. I mean, who knows? Today, people might just shop on TikTok, and you still hope that they're going to have like that something to feel that connection so they keep coming back to your brand no matter where they're getting this feeling from.
correct. Yeah,
And I'm definitely curious, especially since you've had this background like in mobile commerce. Now you're having this background in this really personalized, offline, but also connected to online communication
yeah.
experience. What are things that people should be thinking about when crafting their communication experiences? Like, obviously they can write a thank you note, but I think what was already really helpful is you were talking about how like this dog brand, they made something that could be a little bit social media worthy, or the suit supply, they thought about like a coupon code. Like,
Yes.
what are things people should be thinking about when they're trying to figure out what messaging or strategy is going to work for them?
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, you don't want to put too many calls to action in the body of the note because that
Mm-hmm.
will dilute the value of the note. So if you're sending a thank you note and you want to include a coupon code in it, don't say, "Hey, thanks so much for buying this suit," or whatever. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
coupon code, because then it seems or don't forget to refer us to your friends, then it seems kind
Hmm.
of insincere. Instead, what I'd say is have that printed on the card, on the back of the card, maybe, and have the writing be just short and totally sincere. Um,
Mm.
that's number one. Number two, keep the notes short. You don't want a book. We try to limit you to 500 characters. For most clients, that should be pretty easy, but some want to write a novel. If you write a novel, nobody's going to believe it, or they
Hmm.
want to write a full page letter, my dearest Becca, who's going to read that? So keep it short. We live in the age of Twitter, 160 characters or whatever. So what used to be 160 characters. So keep it short, keep it to the point, and then keep the calls to action as separate, as discernibly separate from the thoughtful note. So, if you want a QR code, fine, people will know you didn't draw out that QR code. It's pre-printed on the card. Or if you want a coupon code, include that, but pre-print it. Those are some of the secrets we have. It's also about cadence.
Hmm.
So, it's really, you don't want to send somebody more than like 4 of these a year, maybe, because otherwise, they're going to wonder, don't you have better things to do with your time than send handwritten notes? So, a birthday card, maybe an anniversary of purchase card, if you really want to do that. A holiday card is obviously very big for us. A thank you for your initial purchase or a big purchase, and then maybe some sort of offer invite. So come to our new store opening, come to our special secret sale, whatever that is. So it's really, I'd say, 4 touch points a year.
That's great, especially to hear that kind of guidelines, because I know, like, for email marketing, obviously there's so many different numbers tossed around about how many times you should be kind of in someone's inbox a day or a week or whatnot,
Yeah.
especially for, like, you see around sales periods and holidays. Like, some brands are going to be in the inbox every single day, but it's nice as well to have that kind of guideline for how often can you be in someone's mailbox. And it sounds like from what you're saying, the reason why like maybe 3 or 4 is like enough is because the cards that you should be sending should be ones that are truly like personal, unique, and like meaningful, not just like you're sending a coupon every single week.
Right. And you don't want to create more noise for the customer. You want it to surprise
Yeah.
and delight. And if they get it on a weekly, it's not going to surprise nor delight.
Absolutely. I'm curious if you have any examples of, or if you know how people maybe integrate the handwritten notes that they receive like into their strategy. Like, do they mention it in some of their other forms of communication? Like, are they going to get an email like, "Oh, something special is on your way," or might they get the
Um,
same messaging in a couple different channels?
that's a very good question. We do send out emails that say, please reply
Hmm.
back with, fill out this form so that we can send you something. Or
Gotcha.
so,
Okay. Yeah.
Becca wants to send you something. She needs your address, something
Hmm.
like that. Usually these are pretty distinct, and
Hmm.
the agency wants to keep them as such, or the brand wants to keep them as such because they serve a different purpose. They want to track them separately. So
Hmm.
we haven't done too many multimodal campaigns, although it could certainly be interesting if you did. Um, well, right now we're doing a campaign for a Christmas oriented brand, and they're going to be sending you Christmas notes throughout the year to keep you
Oh.
on the good list, off the naughty list. So, and that'll be probably have an online component in addition to these
Hmm.
little Christmas notes. We'll see. But yeah, that's, there are a couple um, ideas like that, but nothing I can really speak to.
Absolutely. Well, I love to hear the inspiration, or maybe someone who's listening in can give it a try. Definitely something to be thinking about. I would love also to hear a little bit about, like, of course, Instant is a Shopify app. We would love to hear a little bit about your Shopify plugin as well, in case
Yeah.
maybe that's something someone wants to add to their tech stack.
Yeah. So it's real easy and it's free. What
Hmm.
costs money are the cards.
Of
So
course, yes.
what you can do is if you just set up the Shopify plugin, it will bill to your Shopify account
Hmm.
at the full handwritten rate because we don't have a relationship with you. However, if you go to handwritten.com and you subscribe or you prepay for a bunch of credits, those
Hmm.
can be used through the Shopify app. and you won't pay for them, or you'll pay at the much reduced rate.
Mm-hmm.
So what the way it works is you can go to handwritten.com and design your own card. So it could be
Mm-hmm.
your company logo or a picture of your product. And then once you do that, when you go to the Shopify app, it will be available for you to select. And when you select it, you can then create a rule like send this card after a first purchase or after they spend a certain amount of money or anniversary of purchase or abandoned shopping cart of a specific item. So you can
Mm-hmm.
set up all those rules and you can have multiple rules. So you could create multiple cards, one for each rule. And then you can customize the message for each with a little mail merge field. So, dear Becca, thank you so much for joining the Barking Hound or whatever you
Yeah.
named your company. And then we are a small business and we appreciate you being a client very much. Blah blah blah. And then that's all you have to do. And then we take it from there every day. We'll scrape your Shopify orders, and as those things go out, we'll deduct that card from your credit balance and send out the order on your behalf. So it's really hands-off compliance, making sure
Mm-hmm.
everybody has that same experience. It's a pretty simple application.
Nice, but we love easy to use because I'm sure people who are designing their stores have so many things on their mind. So it's
Yeah.
nice that it sounds like it's really automated once you've designed the cards that you want to send and the things you want to put out there.
Yeah, and
Um,
that part has to be done on the
of course.
website, the
Hmm.
the graphics, the front and the back of the card. But what
Yeah.
you write in it is determined on your Shopify app.
Gotcha. Well, we'll definitely be sure to link that in our recap blog, which remember you can always see in the show notes of the episode. And of course, David, while I have you, it sounds like, especially based on your career, like you've spotted lots of different opportunities in commerce and personalized experiences. So I can imagine you'd be the perfect person to ask. As customer expectations continue to evolve, how do you see the role of personalization in creating these unique customer experiences shifting in the future?
I think it's going to get very hard for marketers and
Okay.
brands because of AI. You could send me the most personalized email ever. Hey,
Hmm.
I see, and I receive them. Hey, I see you went to University of Pennsylvania. Did you go to Heyday, which is like a concert they have there? And people will start discounting these substantially. They will know no matter what that email is automated. So creating personalized brands online is going to become very difficult. You might have to do it
Hmm.
with a video where that's very personal and doesn't look AI generated, or something like that. But creating that personalization online is very hard. Hopefully, Handwritten, at least in the short term, serves that gap and can help really kind of break through the din there. But I mean, we see it. We use email marketing to reach out to
Hmm.
potential customers because it's very cost effective, and the effectiveness keeps going down because of all this AI spam. So
Hmm.
it's hard, And then additionally, as Amazon or other marketplaces restrict how you can reach out to these customers, you know,
Hmm.
Amazon doesn't allow you. If somebody buys a product on Amazon, you're not allowed to send them a handwritten note. So what do you do there?
Yeah.
Because you can't reach out to them outside of the Amazon channels. There, maybe you include the handwritten note with the order or something like that, where it's, kind of a pre-written note, not personalized with your name, but very personal. Like maybe you include a little drawing of your family or something. So, there's so many ways to try to surprise and delight, but doing it online is going to be harder and harder. We work with a lot of nonprofit brands, and saying thank you to nonprofit organizations, donors, is very important. And there's a big difference between thanking and feeling thanked. If you give a donation, you immediately receive a receipt from their donation platform.
Hmm.
Technically, you were thanked, but do you feel thanked? And I think that's going to extend across the board to all e-com.
Absolutely. I think that's something that was really powerful there. Like you are thanking your customers, but do they feel thanked? I think that's definitely something to think about in terms of just the entire like shopping journey, because there's of course that pain of paying. As soon as you're putting money out there, like there's that little regret that you have, and the more you're spending, like the tougher it is for a brand to try to negotiate with that. So indeed, coming on ways to create that personalized experience where they feel like, oh, it's really grateful, like whether that's like you're getting online that coupon code, like, oh, we appreciate this so much next time you shop, or you referred a friend, have
Right.
some merch, whatever it is that feels like special and unique, or you get the first access to this new sale because we see that you're loyal, or in this case you get this lovely handwritten note. Are there any other trends that you think ecom brands should really like keep an eye on in this space when in terms of like personalization or unique experiences?
No, I think, I mean, obviously the product personalization too
Mm-hmm.
is like my Father's Day gifts that my wife has given me for the past couple of years have been incredibly personal with pictures of me and the kids and everything else. And I know that's not new, but it's just because everything else is so generic
Mm-hmm.
and everything. So I think mass personalization, whether it's the Nike shoe in your colors or whatever else, is going to continue to be a massive trend. And then also, the recommendations of those products to you,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's going to just continue.
Absolutely. And that's definitely something I've touched on with a few other experts before. But I think although you bring up a good point, like, of course, personalizing your products has been around for a while. I think the way that you can make sure that when people are visiting your store
Yeah.
online, that they see that personalization element, like straight up, like,
Yeah.
here's things that I clicked on it and immediately I see it. Or like, I've even seen some ads that, like, seem to somehow say Becca on it. Like,
Yep.
how? That's like such like sometimes creepy, but
Creepy.
sometimes it
Yeah.
feels like, oh, that is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I think it's a timeless trend, especially around like holidays or gift giving season. Like, people love it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, David, it's been so great having you on the show, and I can't let you leave without a segment I like to call our click-worthy tip. Of course, this is the podcast Click to Buy. So
Yeah.
this is where I would love a piece of advice that you've learned in your career from your experience. So one tip or short piece of advice on how my listeners can start turning more of those visitors into customers. So it could be a conversion tip, an experience tip, whatever you have for us.
I'd say sit down with pen and paper and write 100 handwritten notes and just see how that impacts. And then, track those clients and see if anything happens. Because I think you will see that there's a magic there. And then when you convert that to automation as you scale, hopefully you'll consider a company like us. But really, whether you do it with us or somebody else or just handwrite them yourself, give it a shot and see what a difference sending a genuine thank you can make. Or pick up the phone and don't do it with a call center. That'll ruin it. But if you, as the owner of your small store, calls your customers, the impact that has is amazing. So also consider, spending an hour a day calling your customers. I have a friend that used to call. He owned a stroller store, and he'd
Mm-hmm.
call each of his customers. Actually, he called each of his customers that had an abandoned shopping cart, and his
Mm.
conversion rate was through the roof. So just try picking up the phone, but it has to be kind of from the top. It can't come from a sales clerk. It has to come from the head of the company.
I love that. That's the tip we haven't heard yet. We've heard a lot of
Yeah.
people on the podcast say speak to your customers, but I think especially for a brand that is small and scaling and trying to get noticed, like that's something that's going to create those really strong customer relationships early on and those evangelists that hopefully can help spread the word to bring more people who crave that nice, personalized, memorable experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Of course, I know where to find you online, but for my listeners who've now listened in and maybe you want to experience handwritten or get more advice from you on creating personalized experiences, where's the best place to find you online?
Personally, I don't wax poetic on Twitter or X or anything like that, but you can connect with
Mm-hmm.
me on LinkedIn. Just look for
Mm-hmm.
David at Handwritten, and it's HANDWRYTTEN. Or just, please visit our website, handwritten.com, HANDWRYTTN. And at the bottom has all our socials, and you can watch our videos and learn how we integrate with Shopify and HubSpot and all the rest there.
Perfect. Well, David, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it was a pleasure, and that's a wrap for today's episode of Click to Buy. A big thanks for all of David's advice and insights on creating these unique customer experiences. Once again, I'm your host, Becca Anderson, coming at you from Instant Page Builder. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to leave us a review, let us know what topic you want us to talk about next, and share it with all your fellow ecom enthusiasts. Until next time, keep turning those clicks into buys.